Merci à ma merveilleuse famille, à ma fille Jane et à mon petit-fils Jackson. Je vous aime maintenant.
If tomorrow the artist you've admired for 30 years suddenly walked onto a stage with different colored eyes, a strange new voice, and a face so eerily blank it sent chills down your spine, would you call it aging or proof of a perfectly engineered double? Don't laugh just yet, because right now, Hollywood is holding its breath over a suspicion that could shake the entire entertainment empire. Was the real Jim Carrey erased to make room for a more compliant replacement? If you think this is just the wild imagination of internet detectives, pause for a moment. Why would veteran rappers, men with nothing left to lose like Ice Cube, spend their careers warning us about this? Ice Cube wasn't joking. He once exposed what he called the Club, an organization operating behind Hollywood's velvet curtain. He hinted that when an artist becomes too awake, they get recalled. And Kanye West, he ranted about a so-called zombie land.
Buckle up, because the truth might be impossible to believe.
The 51st César Awards. On the night of March 2, 2026, local time inside the lavish Théâtre du Châtelet in Paris, Jim Carrey appeared to receive the César d'honneur, one of French cinema's highest distinctions. A legend was being honored. A golden stage awaited him. A standing ovation that should have thundered on. But when the name Jim Carrey echoed through the hall, something faltered. Normally, for a legend like Jim, the room would erupt. But that night, confusion hung in the air. The stars seated in the audience glanced at one another, their eyes seeming to ask, "Is that really Jim?" The irregularities began to surface. A 4K spotlight dissection, differences that can't be ignored. Jim Carrey in the 90s was pure, uncontainable energy. He didn't just perform comedy, he conducted his facial muscles like a virtuoso. Those deep brown eyes could shift from mischievous to manic in a split second. His gait was elastic shoulders and neck in constant motion, as if his body never truly stood still. The man who stepped onto the Paris stage in 2026 was still Jim Carrey, but quieter, slower. The smile appeared, yet it no longer exploded the way audiences remembered. That alone isn't unusual. Time always leaves its mark. At 64, Jim Carrey would naturally have the signature lines around his eyes and mouth from decades of extreme facial performance. Yet in Paris, his skin looked strangely taut in unexpected places, while lacking its natural elasticity when he tried to smile. Jim Carrey has always been known for his sharp, dark brown, deeply expressive eyes. He could manipulate the muscles around them to produce thousands of subtle shades of emotion. But under the 4K lights at the César ceremony, his eyes reflected a puzzling blue-gray or lighter hue. Conspiracy theorists claimed this was the result of cloning errors often affecting iris pigmentation. Or perhaps it was a stand-in wearing contact lenses, unable to replicate the original depth of his gaze. Biometrics, the unfakeable. The online image analysts shifted to biometric comparisons. In facial recognition, ear structure and jawbone shape are among the hardest features to alter. Aging may sag the skin and shrink muscle, but the ear rim and jaw angle largely preserve their skeletal framework. Internet sleuths zoomed in frame by frame. They compared photos from 1994 with images from Paris. They pointed out that Jim's lower jaw seemed unusually fuller. The curve of his ear appeared different. The skin's elasticity looked inconsistent when he smiled. Botox possibly. Fillers likely. But conspiracy theorists raised another question. If this were only cosmetic surgery, why did the frequency of expression seem so different? Jim Carrey was once likened to a musician of facial movement. Every motion carried its own rhythm, almost reflexive. But the version in Paris seemed to think before moving, as though operating a framework not entirely familiar. The silicone mask hypothesis. More unsettling still, the name most frequently mentioned online after that night was Alexis Stone, the makeup artist renowned for hyper-realistic silicone masks capable of fooling even high-resolution cameras. Alexis has recreated Madonna, Adele, even politicians with chilling accuracy. Modern prosthetic technology is no longer cheap latex. It's multi-layered silicone engineered with shadow systems and artificial skin that stretches with facial movement. So the question becomes, if an artist can recreate a star's face for performance purposes, could a powerful organization do the same? For other reasons. Some online theories went even further. This is a test, a public reaction experiment, a smokescreen for something bigger. If this is merely the natural change of time, why do so many people still feel something is off? If it isn't him, then where is he? Perhaps the most unsettling part isn't the idea of cloning or silicone masks. It's the fact that we've grown used to an immortal version of our idols, in our memories. And when reality no longer matches that memory, the brain creates a story to fill the gap. The 2026 Caesar night may not have been a public forensic investigation, but it proved one thing: in the age of 4K and social media, the line between a real person and the story told about them can be thinner than the most flawless layer of silicone. And maybe that's what made it impossible to look away from that stage.
But the most haunting question still hangs in the air. Why? Why would a billion-dollar empire go through the trouble of staging such an absurd body double performance? To answer that, we can't look to flattering tabloid headlines. We have to listen to the voices of those who survived the fire from the inside.
Ice Cube, the curse of the gatekeepers. If Hollywood is a kingdom, then we the public are merely spectators standing outside the gates. But Ice Cube, he's been inside the palace. He sat at the same table as those in power. And he chose to walk away and tell us this freedom, there is an illusion. Ice Cube once used a powerful, ominous word to describe those behind the velvet curtain gatekeepers. Do you really think a star like Jim Carrey is free to choose his roles? Do you think they can speak freely on social media? Think again. According to Ice Cube, the gatekeepers are individuals, studio executives, shadowy financiers, or secretive groups who hold the keys to every door. They don't just control film contracts, they control your visibility and your public identity. Ice Cube implied that when you sign an A-list contract, you've unknowingly signed an unspoken clause: your image no longer belongs to you. It belongs to the company. And if you're a money printing machine like Jim Carrey, they will never let that machine stop running, even if the original component, meaning Jim himself, begins to malfunction. So what happens when an artist is no longer obedient? When they start talking about awakening, about the deception of the elite, or worse, exposing Illuminati rituals the way Jim Carrey once did on Jimmy Kimmel's show. Ice Cube described a highly sophisticated purge process he called the Ocean Freeze. Stage 1, isolation. The media begins to turn its back. Rumors start flooding in claims that the artist is crazy, addicted, or difficult on set. The goal is simple: make the public believe that if he disappears, it's his own fault. Stage 2, career freeze. Major projects are suddenly canceled. The doors held by the gatekeepers slam shut. Stage 3, strategic disappearance. This is the most dramatic phase. The artist vanishes from public view for an extended period, like Jim Carrey's 5-year hiatus. In that darkness, a ruthless decision is made: repair or replace. The safe version hypothesis. This is where reality takes its hardest blow. In interviews, Ice Cube has implied they have people who look more like you than you do. So why use a doppelganger for Jim Carrey? First, to protect the brand. The name Jim Carrey is worth billions in royalties, advertising, and film revenue. If the real Jim becomes too dangerous to the system because he dares to speak the truth, the system won't destroy the name. It simply removes Jim's free will. Second, they create a safe shell. Physically similar enough even if there are rendering glitches like eye color or jaw structure in Paris, but spiritually hollow. This entity will never speak about the Illuminati, never paint satirical portraits of the elite. It will smile, accept awards, and deliver vague philosophical lines to keep the public asleep. Even more shocking, Ice Cube and Kanye West have indirectly confirmed that cloning technology, or the use of high-end silicone mask doubles, is real. The sole purpose is to maintain the cash flow. To the gatekeepers, humans are disposable. The brand is eternal. When you look at Jim Carrey in Paris, remember Ice Cube's words: "Don't believe what you see on TV, that's a staged reality." Perhaps the real Jim Carrey, the brilliant artist with a rebellious soul, has been locked away in some dark basement of Zombieland. And what we're applauding is merely a stabilized copy, a tool that allows Hollywood's elite to keep draining our wallets and our trust without fear of rebellion from within. Ask yourself this: why did Ice Cube choose independent self-financing films, building his own empire? Because he understands the price of handing over the keys to the gatekeepers. He chose to keep his soul. And Jim Carrey, perhaps he lost the battle to keep his own. If in the previous part, Ice Cube showed us the iron cage of the gatekeepers, then in this chapter, we witness the moment the decoy bird named Jim Carrey decided to peck that cage apart and sing the forbidden songs. Jim Carrey. When laughter becomes a declaration of war. In the world of the elite, there's an unwritten rule: you can perform the act, but never explain the act. Jim Carrey broke that rule. He didn't just perform, he began tearing off the mask of the very stage he was standing on. Let's rewind to that fateful night in 2014 on Jimmy Kimmel Live. When the music started and Jim walked out, the audience expected a classic comedic bit. But no, Jim Carrey stepped out with a strange demeanor. Almost immediately, he raised his hands into a triangle, the classic Illuminati symbol, then stuck his tongue out through the center of it. I'm here to blow the lid off it. When Kimmel tried to nervously laugh it off as harmless comedy, there wasn't a trace of humor in Jim's eyes. He looked straight into the camera through the screen and said, "People are tired of these puppets." He implied that Hollywood's elite were trying to control the public's mind through symbols and hidden messages. That wasn't a random joke. That was a whistleblower using national television to send out a distress signal. Jim was challenging the very gatekeepers Ice Cube had warned about. And remember this carefully. Right after that night, Jim's public appearances began to quietly decline at a suspicious rate. If the Kimmel appearance was a warning shot, then his speech at the 2018 BAFTA Awards was the death sentence for his Hollywood career. Standing before thousands of colleagues and the most powerful moguls in the industry, Jim Carrey turned the acceptance stage into a spiritual courtroom. He didn't thank studios. He didn't thank directors. Instead, he spoke about the meaninglessness of awards and called the elite performers of hollow rituals. Jim laughed, but it was the bitter laugh of someone who had seen the deepest darkness behind the velvet curtain. He alluded to parties, to dark rituals stars supposedly had to attend in exchange for fame. You could see the tension on the faces of the executives seated below. They realized Jim Carrey was no longer a compliant chess piece. He had become a system glitch. When an artist starts using his influence to awaken the masses, instead of lulling them to sleep, the gatekeepers activate the removal protocol immediately. After being quietly blacklisted by Hollywood, Jim Carrey did not choose silence. He retreated to his art studio. But instead of painting flowers or landscapes, he poured out anger and truth. Jim created sharp political satire, targeting politicians, systemic corruption, and what he portrayed as the true faces of the elite. Each painting was a poisoned arrow aimed at the heart of the control machine. It was during this period that the real Jim Carrey appeared in public less than ever. He grew thinner, his beard longer, his eyes burning with what seemed like an obsession with being hunted. It wasn't just Jim Carrey or Ice Cube who dared to speak out. There was one other person who publicly revealed threatening messages from the system. And believe this when you connect what he went through with Jim Carrey's strange appearance in Paris. In 2026, you begin to see a purge pattern so ruthless, it sends chills down your spine. Kanye West and Zombieland. In the world of the elite, when an A-list chess piece starts to malfunction, they don't simply fire you. They put you through a process. Kanye West calls Zombieland. Look at this living example. Kanye West once shocked the world by publicly sharing screenshots of text messages from Harley Pasternak, a celebrity fitness trainer to A-listers who has been suspected of acting as a handler. The message read, "I will have you institutionalized again. They will medicate you, and you will return to Zombieland permanently. Your children will see a completely different father." Kanye was not joking. Zombieland isn't a horror movie. It's a term describing the state of an artist after being processed through chemicals and forced psychological treatment. They're still alive, still breathing, still signing autographs, but their soul and free will have been crushed. Look at Jim Carrey in Paris on March 2nd, 2026. That vacant stare, those mechanical movements, aren't they? The perfect definition of a resident of Zombieland. Why do Jim Carrey and Kanye West, two men from entirely different fields, share the same fate of being labeled unstable? They share a common enemy, the Illuminati. Both Jim and Kanye made the fatal mistake of publicly naming secret organizations. Jim did it on Jimmy Kimmel in 2014. Kanye did it during hours-long interviews. The moment they began speaking what they believed was the truth, a character assassination campaign was activated. You start seeing identical headlines. Jim Carrey spiraling after his girlfriend's death. Kanye West battling severe bipolar disorder. This is how they isolate whistleblowers from the public. If people believe you're crazy, they won't believe what you reveal. Ice Cube hinted at this process, and Kanye exposed it. Look at whether Jim Carrey and Kanye West followed the same path. They were pushed into scandals. Billion-dollar contracts were cut. Adidas with Kanye major film projects with Jim. They were sent to discreet treatment centers, which some claim function more like modern psychological labs. This is the final and most terrifying step. The artist returns appearing obedient, manageable speaking, harmless philosophical lines. Kanye once reappeared with a swollen face and an unfocused gaze. And now Jim Carrey appears in Paris with different colored eyes and the demeanor of a puppet. Kanye West managed to break away and continues shouting warnings to the world. But what about Jim Carrey? Looking at the man in Paris that night, one has to wonder, does Jim still have the strength to fight like Kanye? Or has he truly been consumed by the Zombieland script? If Harley Pasternak's threat was real, then the man standing on that Caesar stage was not the one who starred in The Truman Show. It was a completely different father, a completely different artist shaped by the elite to keep the public calm. But it doesn't stop there.
In an era where images can be manipulated with just a few clicks, the concept of a doppelganger is no longer a piece of German folklore. It has become an unsettling question of the digital age. Could a person be replaced without the world ever knowing?
Doppelganger technology mask deepfake or cloning deepfake is a technology that uses artificial intelligence to recreate a person's face, voice, and expressions in video. At first, it was just an experimental playground for programmers. But in recent years, deepfake has reached astonishing levels. Lip movements perfectly synced to speech lighting that matches camera angles, even simulated breathing patterns. In theory, someone could appear in an interview saying something they never actually said. Filmmakers have used similar technology to resurrect deceased actors or digitally de-age characters on screen. But deepfake primarily exists in digital space. It convinces on a screen where audiences cannot touch or verify with any senses beyond sight and sound. Executing a deepfake in a live event with hundreds of witnesses would be nearly impossible. So while deepfake is a real threat in online environments, it is far less viable as a tool for physically replacing someone in the real world. Hyper-realistic masks. Cinema technology in real life. More plausible is advanced prosthetic makeup. The film industry has long possessed techniques so realistic they leave audiences stunned. Multi-layer silicone can replicate pores and wrinkles in microscopic detail. Underlying structures allow the mask to stretch with facial movement. Makeup artists have demonstrated that under the right lighting, they can transform one person into an almost perfect replica of another. But the real question is, could a mask truly fool those who have interacted with the original for years? Voice tone, posture, natural reflexes, unconscious habits. These are the hardest elements to duplicate. A mask can recreate appearance. Identity, however, does not live only on the surface of the skin. And then comes the boldest theory of all, the biological cloning hypothesis. Animal cloning has existed since the late 20th century. Human cloning, however, is globally banned for ethical and legal reasons. Even so, conspiracy theories continue to circulate. Some claim that global elites possess technologies far beyond public understanding. They speak of secret laboratories of individuals replaced when they become inconvenient or difficult to control. The name Jeffrey Epstein often surfaces in these narratives, not because there is evidence linking him to cloning, but because he was associated with networks of power secrecy and controversial ties to wealthy elites. In collective psychology, names connected to major secrets easily become anchors for unverified speculation. To date, there is no credible scientific evidence that cloning a fully grown human complete with memories and personality is possible. The idea is compelling because it taps into one of humanity's deepest fears, losing control of one's identity. Perhaps the issue is not technology, but psychology. When the public sees a celebrity change, aging, becoming quieter, seeming different, they are quick to suspect that something is off. In a world where everything can be edited, trust in images becomes fragile. Deepfake makes us question video. Masks make us question sight. Cloning theories make us question reality. Technology grows more sophisticated, but it also blurs the line between real and fake. Yet amid all the dramatic hypotheses, one simple truth remains: change does not equal replacement. The modern doppelganger may be a product of algorithms, prosthetics, or collective imagination. And sometimes the most unsettling possibility is not that someone has been replaced, but that we have grown accustomed to doubting everything we see. While the entire internet obsesses over pixel-by-pixel analysis of Jim Carrey's face in Paris, major entertainment outlets like Entertainment Tonight and Variety present a very different narrative. They do not speak of cloning. They speak of human nature. The opposing view. A less dramatic truth. We've grown used to the Jim Carrey of the 1990s, an endless source of energy. But let's be realistic for a moment. The night in Paris was 2026. Jim Carrey was 64 years old. Medical experts interviewed by ET pointed out that changes in jaw structure or the skin around the eyes can simply result from sudden weight loss or the natural aging of connective tissue. As for the eyes, iris pigmentation can appear different under the high-intensity modern LED lighting used at the Théâtre du Châtelet. That may be light refraction, not some genetic rendering glitch. Don't forget that Jim endured severe emotional trauma, especially the prolonged legal battle following the death of his former girlfriend, Catriona White. Clinical depression and long-term use of psychiatric medication can dramatically alter a person's demeanor. The vacant look some call Zombieland may in reality be a side effect of medication, or simply the exhaustion of a man worn down by decades in the spotlight. Why are we quicker to believe Ice Cube's dramatic clone theory than to accept that our idol has aged? Psychologists call this symbolic death denial. The human brain tends to search for dramatic explanations when confronted with unsettling change. Accepting that the once electric Jim Carrey is now an aging, perhaps fragile man on stage is painful. It feels easier to believe he was taken by the Illuminati than to accept that time defeats everyone. We hold on to the image of Jim from 1994 and use it to judge Jim in 2026. When the two don't align, we label it fake. There is another possibility, a very Jim Carrey one, that we cannot ignore: performance art. Remember when he appeared at New York Fashion Week and told a reporter, "I just wanted to find the most meaningless thing I could attend"? Or when he fully embodied Andy Kaufman in Man on the Moon, to the point that no one could separate actor from character? Jim Carrey has always despised the artificiality of Hollywood. His strange appearance in Paris, the blank demeanor, the hollow-sounding speech could itself have been a piece of performance art, a satire aimed directly at the awards ceremony. Perhaps he was playing the role of a Hollywood puppet to mock the elite to their faces. If that's the case, then the real Jim is still very much there, laughing at everyone trying to determine whether he's a replacement. So what should we believe: Ice Cube's warnings about dramatic gatekeepers in Zombieland, or E.T.'s dry biological explanations? One truth remains regardless of whether Jim Carrey was ever replaced. The way media and powerful institutions shape and control an artist's image is real. And even if the man in Paris was entirely original, his once rebellious spirit may simply have been worn down by the system over time. A larger question remains unresolved. Why are we as a modern audience so ready to believe our idol has been swapped with a duplicate? Are we overly suspicious? Or has the world become so artificial that truth itself struggles to stand? Why are people so ready to believe in a replacement? The Paris 2026 appearance of a different-looking Jim Carrey was merely the tipping point. In reality, a quiet wave of distrust has been building within society for years. We live in an era where trust in major institutions is collapsing. According to recent surveys, over 70% of the public no longer fully trust mainstream media. When scandals like the Epstein files or discussions about the club surface, people are reminded that Hollywood is not a paradise, but a maze of carefully constructed narratives. When faith in the storyteller fades, audiences begin searching for their own answers. If politicians can use deepfake technology in campaigns, why couldn't Hollywood theoretically use a doppelganger to maintain a billion-dollar brand like Jim Carrey? When the line between performance and reality blurs, conspiracy theories can start to feel like compelling alternative truths. The rise of cloning narratives is not just online entertainment. It carries real and sometimes cruel consequences. Imagine being the real Jim Carrey trying to navigate depression and aging, only to have the world shout, "Fake, you're a clone." Identity denial of that magnitude becomes a form of psychological violence. It isolates the artist to the point where even his own face feels stolen. When we stop trusting what we see and hear, society drifts toward collective paranoia. We begin doubting friends, family, even ourselves. After all of this, who was Jim Carrey in Paris? 2026. A biological replacement molded by the gatekeepers, as Ice Cube suggests. A victim of Zombieland, as Kanye warns. Or simply a 64-year-old man tired of life in the spotlight. The truth may not lie in eye color or bone structure. It may lie in how we choose to interpret the world. If we allow suspicion to consume everything, we risk losing our connection to genuine human values. Whoever stood on that stage that night, the legacy of the original Jim Carrey, the one who taught us to laugh at pain and speak boldly, still lives within us. And that is something no clone, no mask, and no gatekeeper could ever replicate.
Do you believe gatekeepers are simply normal power structures within the entertainment industry? Or is there something deeper behind the stage lights? When an artist changes dramatically, do you see growth or a carefully constructed, safe version? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Like this video to support the channel. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss upcoming deep dives into the stories few dare to discuss in the entertainment world.
We encourage viewers to approach the content with an open mind, critical thinking, and to always cross-reference with multiple sources in order to form their own perspective. That's the reality of the game. Fame always comes with a price. If you vibe with the content and want the real uncut stories, go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe to the Black Vault.